live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Historic Districts Review Board meeting. Today we are June the 22nd, 2021. This is our 25th virtual meeting. May we have a roll call, and I am calling this meeting to order. And Melissa, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Rios,
Here.
Vice Chair Katz,
Here.
Member Beachside,
Here.
Member Bienvenue,
Here.
Member Guida,
Here.
Member Larson,
Here.
Member Roybal. And
He's excused.
he's excused. Thank you, Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Any changes to the agenda, board members or staff?
No, Madam Chair.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Katz moved. Is there a second?
Wait a second.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you, Melissa. We have minutes of June 8th, 2021. Any changes to any of these? Anybody? Let me see if I see any raised hands.
I would move to approve the minutes, Frank.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, Beachside seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. We have 4 findings of fact and conclusions of law. Any changes to any of these? It appears not. Is there a motion to approve these?
Katz So moves moved. approve.
Is there a second?
Wait a second.
Agree to second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson. Member Larson, you're muted.
She might
Member
be
Larson, can you unmute, please? Thank you.
frozen.
Oh, no, she's alive.
Member Larson, what was your vote on findings and conclusions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. And let me see, we go to matters from the public. Anyone from the public wishing to express an opinion here this evening? We have Stephanie Beninatto.
Stephanie Beninatto, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was thinking about this case that Member Bienvenue brought up last time, which was 314 North Guadalupe. And one of my biggest questions is, how did it get approved that the new house was going to be the main house? And it said there was an agreement, but I would think that a city staff person would have had to sign off on that. And I really wonder who signed off on that without taking it to the historic board. And then the other thing that I heard, other than, like they weren't going to support and the idea of protecting a view corridor, but your reasoning was different. And I think that they could appreciate the difference. But in terms of, I'm sorry, I just kind of lost my thought. Give me a second. Yes, if you had been more specific about it, it's losing its status. I think that would have been helpful. Like if you go forward and you do get approval, then you will in fact lose your status. And that is kind of a threat in a sense, because you do get historic, you can get historic credits, for building and things like that. So not a threat, but, a consequence, let me just say. And so I think because there was some, I think, questions that indicated that had you really strongly said you will lose your historic status, that perhaps the city council would have thought of it a little bit differently. And again, if it had come in when it was still in the very beginning stages, like, would you approve this to allow a new building that might totally obscure the contributing building? Maybe then it would have been designed differently and there would have been still a partial recognition of that lot and what it did contribute to the streetscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I don't see anyone else from the public wishing to make a comment. So we will go to staff communications. And Nicole?
Yes, Madam Chair. So actually, Sally, I did think of one other thing to discuss quickly with the board. Can I add that now? Yeah. Several months ago, Vice Chair Katz had requested that staff look into what was going on with the solar at the PERA building. And I assume you all have seen the New Mexican article, but we did try to contact them a couple of times, and was able to talk to the architect, but not to the project manager. And then I started hearing murmurings about what was going on with the archaeology. And in case you didn't see in the newspaper, that project has been canceled. And the solar array will now be put over off of Camino Carlos Rey. So I just wanted to update on that.
Oh, thank you for that.
Sure. And then I wanted to provide the board with a little informational about the George O'Keeffe Museum, the proposed museum that'll be coming forward in the near future. So I gave just a little bit of background, which was that the city HPD was engaged last summer, I believe it was last July, and maybe June, about this forthcoming application. Then there were some delays, or took a long time to kind of acquire some of the property. So city staff and the applicant couldn't really move forward on anything. But now all those things have kind of been resolved. I provided this staff memo just letting you know what city staff had advised and outlined for how the project should come to the board. And I wanted to demonstrate that there'll be kind of several phases for you all to participate in terms of the discussion about the museum. There were a few comments from Jennifer Foley, who is the Deputy Director for Collections and Engagement at the George O'Keeffe Museum. She wanted me to just note that the George O'Keeffe Museum is in the process of designing what is an approximately 54,000 square foot museum, which will include 29,000 feet of square footage that will be below grade for conservation and collections, and 6,000 square feet of enclosed mechanical roof space. So she wanted me to be clear kind of that it's not a 54,000 square foot footprint. And that the project also includes publicly accessible landscape improvements at 123 Grant on the adjacent property, and on the adjacent property at 135 Grant Avenue to create an integrated museum campus. And then she also wanted to note that the applicant was under a previous lease and didn't take ownership of the two properties at 123 and 135 Grant Avenue until May 7th, 2021. As such, the applicant could not proceed with engaging the city, as I kind of discussed, and the public application process until they were in full ownership of the properties. They would also like to note that the ENN was performed as a requirement for presenting the new museum to the Planning Commission, which was scheduled for September, but now it's my understanding that won't go forward until October. So it'll be coming, this case will be coming to the board prior to going to Planning Commission. Because the project exceeds it's going to Planning Commission because the project exceeds 10,000 square feet in the BCD, the Business Capital District, and for parking variances. And then in regard to the historic review, the historic status review, the applicant is coming forward to the HDRB regarding the existing east wall located at 135 Grant Avenue, as well as the preliminary, I don't understand this one sentence, but in addition to the property at 123, which is the former Safeway building at 123 Grant, there's also going to be a status review coming forward for a wall that's associated with the property at 135 Grant. And that will not come forward on the 13th of July, but the status review for the old Safeway building at 123 Grant will. And then if you have questions, feel free to ask. And then Jennifer Foley is also present if there's any quick informational items that she can answer.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. So this is an informational item on our agenda this evening, but if board members do have questions, of course, you may ask, or if you want to make a comment. Anyone wishing to make a comment at this time? Any board members? It appears not. I don't see any hands. So thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
And we will move on to old business, and there is nothing under old business. So we'll move on to new business. This evening we have 4 cases. The first case is located at 310 Magdalena, and this is 2021-00-3722, Angela's case. So Angela, may we hear from you? And Angela, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you.
And just for the record, I've got Luca Moreno Baker joining the panel.
Yeah, he's the applicant.
I got him over. All right.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Oh, okay, good. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, you might remember 310 Magdalena, located here near the Scottish Rite Cathedral's over here, the temple. This is the front of the house. 310 Magdalena is a 1,445 square foot vernacular style single story residence contributing to the downtown and the East Side Historic District. It is partially built into the hillside, and it's prominently on a hill above the intersection of Magdalena and Paseo de Peralta. It is publicly visible from the west and south elevations. Its core predates statehood, and it has undergone several expansions over its lifetime. The south elevation was added onto sometime before 1970 with aluminum sliding windows. It has few of its original windows. The building's front entry has a landing that appears to have been altered. The board designated the west facade as primary at its January 12, 2021 meeting. The board approved a previous proposal at its April 27th meeting to reconfigure a portion of the contributing yard wall and replace all windows. The applicant proposed the following items. Add a portal on the west facade. Pardon me. So this is the existing condition, existing site plan, and this is the proposed. The proposed portal is a simple post and beam shed roof with rounded vigas, posts, and a sloped metal roof. I'll get you to the elevations. The new vigas will be supported by a wood ledger board attached by expansion bolts to the existing west primary facade. The applicant proposes a bronze color pro panel roof. All proposed wood structural elements will be sealed to preserve their natural color. Per the applicant, this design will allow for better drainage and replace existing rotted and metal encapsulated viga ends with new structural vigas supporting the portal. Add a 3 feet tall wood guardrail to enclose the existing porch on the west facade. And this, you'll see, this is the proposed portal, and this is the guardrail that's proposed across the front facade, west. The wooden guardrail will span the length of the porch, which is 27 feet. Vertical members will be spaced 6 inches apart. The effect will ensure continued visibility of the house's primary west facade. The wood rail will sit atop the existing stone-faced concrete porch. The applicant also proposes to add a 4 feet high stone-faced planter along the 6 feet stone-faced porch base. That's really the best picture of it right here. The new planter will match the existing stone porch base and the stone yard walls approved in a previous case. The proposed planter bed will catch rain runoff from the proposed portal roof. The applicant requests an exception to section 14-5.2 D2c to add on to a primary facade of a contributing building. The applicant's and the staff's responses to the criteria are included in the staff report. Staff recommends approval of the proposal as it complies with general design standards for all historic districts, section 14-5.2D, and the design standards of the Downtown and East Side Historic District per section 14-5.2E. Staff finds that the applicant has met the criteria for exception to 14-5.2D1, which is the general design standards for all historic districts, which addresses additions to primary facades on contributing structures in per section 14-5.2 D2C. And that concludes my staff report. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Angela. As you stated in your report, this is a contributing house with the west elevation being the primary elevation. Is it your opinion that with the proposed porch and proposed railing that this building will still remain contributing?
Chair Rios, members of the board, do believe that it will maintain its contributing status, the addition of a portal and a guardrail.
Say that again, please.
I do believe that it will not jeopardize its status, and that because it is a porous guardrail that's only 3 feet tall, and the west primary facade remains visible.
Thank you, Angela. Member Katz has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I vaguely remember that there was some provision that was more favorable to this kind of addition to a primary facade if it was removable. Is that true? I tried to find it and couldn't find it.
Member Katz, I believe, I don't know if it's expressly stated in the code, but I believe that falls within the preservation standards that refer to characteristics of additions that would not jeopardize a historic status. But I'm going to ask Nicole to chime in on this with respect to your question.
Yeah, Member Katz, I'm looking for the citation now. I know exactly what you're talking about. Just give me a moment.
The other question I have while you're looking for that, Nicole, is whether the exception needs to be extended to use non-similar materials, because it says you can't do non-similar materials, and here we have a metal roof which is, of course, I don't think similar to anything else on the house now. Or is that just part of the exception that they're asking for?
It could be part of the exception. I have my code open here. I apologize that I haven't been able to. There it is. So let me look here.
Nicole, I've got it if you want me to read it.
Yeah, that's great if you have it handy. Yeah.
I think what we're talking about is probably subparagraph C1D. It's within regulation of contributing structures, purpose and intent. And it says new additions and related or adjacent new construction be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the original form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. Is that what we're looking for?
Yes, and I assume that that would be true here.
I
believe it's true.
Okay, well, that helps support it.
And in regard to the material, so this is the downtown and east side. The materials are, I suppose, somewhat dissimilar to the existing house. However, metal roofs for this kind of accent on the portal are an exception is not usually requested for material.
Okay, the final question I have is the railing, and I appreciate very much the efforts of the applicant to allow us to see through and see the primary facade. I wonder whether a wrought iron railing would be less obstructive. Any thoughts on that?
Would you like me to respond to that, or is this?
Please.
Okay. You know, I actually think that the wood separated verticals is more in keeping with the style of the house. I think that a wrought iron would show up more, particularly if it were black, stand out.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
It appears no one else has questions at this time. We will go to the applicant or applicants. And who is the applicant?
Luca Marino Baker is here, Madam Chair.
I will go ahead and swear him in. Do you
Please do.
swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Luca Marino Baker. Address is 38A County Road 84, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87506.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baker, good evening. What do you have to tell us in addition to what staff just told us in her report?
Good evening, board members. Good to see you again. And thank you, Angela, for that introduction. So in the process of working with the clients to best represent their needs, and in looking at other, well, lots of historic properties throughout the district, one thing, we went through a lot of different iterations for this portal, one of which was building directly on top of the stone facade below partition, in addition to a more Pueblo vernacular portal roof. The problem being is that you do have the existing canales would all be essentially dumping onto a flat roof. And what we were looking at was to have a lower parapet than the one that's existing. We just didn't have enough slope to direct the water. The existing vigas that are there, the viga ends, were encapsulated with some kind of sheet metal years ago, and upon some of them are actually open and you can see, but the viga ends are rotted. So what we felt was the least obtrusive method of moving forward so that you could see the primary facade, the historic windows that we are maintaining, was to have as light an area structure as possible that would both provide the clients with a protection from the elements. This is a west-facing facade with the living area just on the inside. It would provide some shade from the afternoon sun. But most importantly, as you can see from the existing photographs, there is a pretty precipitous drop off the current landing. So primarily the guardrail, as it's designed right now, with the incorporation into the structure, would solve life safety issues and actually allow this portal to be usable to both capture the view. They've got a very unique view of downtown from this spot, to provide protection to both the historic windows and doors, and like I said, comfort issues on the inside. Where we came up with the shed roof is in looking at the different iterations of what could be done here in terms of a Pueblo style addition. We felt it's clunky. It would block the view. Whereas we feel with the shed roof, it's just directing the water directly towards planter beds that would then direct the water via a drain down the driveway, which is the natural drainage pattern. And in keeping why we selected pro panel or metal roof as opposed to what's existing is there is a bry roof, so essentially kind of that sandpaper material. And in terms of a shed roof, just aesthetically, we felt that metal roofs are used throughout northern New Mexico style houses, that it's not an existing material on this particular building, but there are certainly lots of precedents in which Pueblo style buildings have metal shed portals. We also felt that the wood, in keeping it just a natural stain, would essentially blend in with the stucco to an extent, but also not compete with the primary facade and let the windows and the door really kind of sing through this as a lightweight structure. So, and the final portion of this is the little planter bed we have extending off of the existing stone platform. In the former board meeting, where we are removing a portion of the historic site wall and then extending it so that there is now a parking area in front of the house here. So the planter bed would help tie in with those existing site walls. And I think it would just look like it's been there as is forever. So with that being said, that's after a lot of iterations, this is what myself and the clients decided was really the least obtrusive, just most straightforward, and really necessity-driven alteration to this home.
Thank you, Mr. Baker, for your thorough presentation. We have Member Katz that has a question for you.
Thank you. I agree. I think what you've designed is very, very handsome and is a very good addition to the house. I am being a little legalistic, I'm sorry, but that's sort of my background, and I'm glad I'm getting the answers that we need. But the viga ends, that you propose to remove them, I understand. Is that correct?
Do.
And so that would be the removal of historic material, and doesn't there need to be an exception for that?
Well, I guess my assumption is that would be included in the exception to build onto the primary facade.
Well, let me ask maybe Sally then if that would be included in it. I mean, it's not really the same thing. Building on the facade is not removing historic material.
Member Katz, you are correct. That would be removal of historic material. And in previous discussions, there had been, and Mr. Marino Baker could maybe address this, but in keeping the Viga tails in some way, even if they were obscured by the portal that's going to be placed, but not removing the historic material, just leaving it like kind of right underneath the portal.
Is
So
that possible? It would not be visible to anyone outside, I think. I think the shed roof would hide it, but it would sort of comply with what we talked about earlier about if the addition were removed, we would be back to the historic material. So I guess the question for the applicant is whether it's possible to basically leave the Viga ends that are there and just build it as you had planned to build it.
I see. And we did look into this. We were worried it was, essentially with the shed roof joining the building just under the Viga ends could potentially work. We just felt that the Viga ends weren't really serving anything, especially with the metal caps on them, and may look strange, but we're not opposed to, we do have the ability to move that down a little bit so that the Vigas could remain and still essentially accomplish the same thing with the shed roof. It would just lower the carrier beam a little bit, but we do have, this would be about 8 inches or so. These Vigas range from about 5 inches to 7 inches in diameter. So if what you're suggesting is to be able to attach it just under the Vigas, that is possible.
Thank
Member
you.
Katz, do you have further comments?
No, not at this moment.
Thank you. Member Guida.
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion of this item. I think while lowering the intersection point of the proposed portal below the Vigas would technically solve this issue of retaining historic material, I don't think it would be a very harmonious result. I think it would look a bit slapdash. I think what is being proposed in terms of the removal of the Viga ends produces a cleaner look, and one where, although we lose some historic material technically, it doesn't, in my mind, harm the existing building
Thank you,
and
Member.
its contributing status.
Mr. Baker, did I hear you indicate in your presentation that some of those Viga ends are not in very good condition?
Yes, Chairman. From what we can see, the metal has been removed and are peeling from several of these. And I mean, it looks like a combination of probably what was dry rot previously, and then with the encapsulation of the wood, I think it trapped water in there. So, we can't really verify that what's under the metal is going to be very aesthetically pleasing, and nor would we want any kind of rot to spread to the inside, because these are active Vigas on the inside of the home as well.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if other board members have questions for you. Member Beachside.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that in what I thought were really responsive answers to the exception criteria, the applicant mentions that new Vigas will be put in the same location on a ledger board to support the new portal as a way of sort of paying homage to the existing Vigas, which I think is much preferable to some of the other things that we have approved, sort of replacing the ends with new ends, or sort of less, in my mind, preferable is just covering up that facade with stucco and not acknowledging that the Vigas were ever there. So I think that is a pretty thoughtful way of sort of honoring the fact that the Vigas were there. And I think this proposal makes a lot of sense and is a sensitive way to solve a necessary problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bucciarati. Any other board members have comments or questions for the applicant at this time? I don't see any hands raised. So I will take it to public comment. And Nicole, will you help me on limiting public comment to 2 minutes?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Let me see if we have anyone commenting. Stephanie Benenato and Melissa, would you swear her in, please?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Sure. Stephanie Benenato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I can understand the wanting of the portal here and perhaps a need for a railing. However, I think it does totally change the look of the building not to be able to see the vigas. I understand it could be very awkward to have the roof line under the vigas. And I do at least appreciate that there'll be replicas of the vigas under the portal, but I really do think it totally changes the look. And I wish that the railing, the verticals on the railing were slightly more distant apart so that it would even be, the house would be more visible through there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benenato. I don't believe there's anyone else from the public wishing to comment. No, I don't see any other hands. I will take it back to the board. Member Larson.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, after thinking about this for a while, my first impression was also that the portal should go beneath the vigas, just so they're visible and we see that part of the vernacular architecture represented still. Not only that, but it would preserve just the overall appearance of the parapet. But I do agree that it would still maintain a lot of that character, even if it were covered to an extent. And it may look more harmonious because it is hard to get a visual here without actually seeing that drawn. So I appreciate the discussion and I think it's valuable. Thanks.
So Member Larson, clarification. So you indicated even if they retained the vigas, but under the portal, that would be fine with you?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence, so to speak.
Thank you. Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm pretty much in that same boat. I think that this is just undeniable to me that this dramatically changes the visual appearance of that facade, which is very distinctive, even though it's very simple. And particularly the way it looks out over from the hill over Paseo. So if you do see it, it's a very strong visual presentation. If you look at just the photographs of that facade as it appears today, it's very striking. I think that's all completely lost by this proposal, even if you can sort of see it through it. On the other hand, I think people have to be able to live in the historic districts, and portals to me are almost an essential feature, except under unusual circumstances. And in this particular case, it really does appear that there needs to be some protection on that facade. And once you've reached that conclusion, this does appear to me to be the least or the most innocent way to do it with respect to trying to preserve as much as possible of the existing building. Again, I think it changes it quite dramatically, but I think it will still be a building that fits into the historic district and the streetscape. So I do think that they've reached probably the best compromise solution that can be reached once it's decided that a portal is needed, which I think in this case it is.
Thank you, Member Benvenu, for your comments. Member Katz.
Thank you. I totally agree with Member Bienvenu. And I agree that it would be better not to have to keep the current Viga ends, given their condition and how it would affect the appearance of the portal, particularly necessary on a west facade. With the sun that we've been having and the heat that we've been having, we are all acutely aware of that now. My only concern is that can we today approve it as the record stands?
Thank you, Member Katz. Member Guida.
I guess I'd like to make a motion, Madam Chair.
Let me see if anybody else has anything further to say. Member Benvenu, okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, I would like for you to comment in reference to the Vigas. If they are removed, would you comment in reference to that? If the applicant has to come back, what's the scoop?
Yes. So 14-5.2 D 5 talks about windows, doors, and other architectural features. And B says, for all facades of significant contributing and landmark structures, architectural features, finishes, and details other than doors and windows shall be repaired rather than replaced. In the event replacement is necessary, the use of new material may be approved. The new material shall match the material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. So the question, I guess, is if the board considers, because the Vigas are remaining, to go under the portal, if that's a replacement in kind or if it's not. If it is considered a replacement in kind, then there's no exception needed.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Member Katz.
I guess my question that I'm not entirely clear on is, can the Vigas be left in the portal put above them? I mean, I know that the canales come out a distance, so that it could be that where the water comes off the canales, it would still be above the portal. I just don't know the engineering of that.
Okay, maybe the applicant should answer that. I don't know that the applicant knows whether the condition of those Vigas, as he stated, they haven't taken the caps off, so they don't know if they're rotted really badly or they can be fixed. Mr. Baker, can you respond?
Sure. So in response to if the portal can go above the existing Vigas and we leave them in place, what we're dealing with is the sloping of the roof, which we can't change without re-roofing essentially this whole half of the house. As you can see from the pictures, the canales sit directly above the Vigas. So to ensure proper drainage, we're kind of stuck with the height limitation of the canales as they are right now. Thanks. It's that image on the bottom left-hand corner shows what we're dealing with. And I just want to thank you, Member Beachai, for bringing up the point that was in our presentation that to an extent we are replacing the Vigas with functional Vigas that will support this portal in respect to the structure as it is. So as opposed to decorative Vigas, essentially they're becoming a viable part of the structural system. So in that sense, I feel we are replacing them with, well, like I said, an important part of the structure.
So Mr. Baker, you would be replacing them in kind and you are keeping those metal canales, correct?
The canales are there. Yes, we are.
Okay, so then as you are proposing your porch, the Vigas would be under the the porch, correct?
The Vigas was essentially attached where they are now, with the roofing coming just under the canale, so that the so
Okay,
that
so
the
the canal would be exposed, I mean, the Vigas would be exposed.
Oh, yes, Chairman, yes.
Okay, got you.
And
Okay.
some of these are anywhere from 7 inches. So we're replacing them with 6-inch Vigas. I believe at 2 feet on center. I can check the drawing. So structurally, it's sturdy. They would be a little bit smaller, which would allow for the roofing and the flashing to come up under the canale there.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? If not, I will entertain a motion. And I believe that member Guida had indicated he wanted to make a motion.
Yes.
Yes, you have the floor.
In case 2021-003372 HDRB 310 Magdalena, move that the board approve the application as submitted, finding that the exception criteria have been met.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second member Bienvenu.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Beach Dyke,
Yes.
Member Bienvenu,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much, and good luck on the project, Mr. Baker.
Thank you so much. Good to see you all again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Next case will be presented by Daniel, and that's located at 855 El Caminito, case 2021-003720. Daniel, you have the floor.
Carl Quincy.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
"855 El Caminito" is a returning case. It's a single-family residential structure with accessory structures with non-contributing status to the downtown East Side Historic District. Sorry, contributing status. It was begun in 1924 by John Gaw Meem with subsequent additions in the 1960s. An addition was done in 1972, which covered the original east facade. To refresh your memory, this is the complex footprint. This is the John Gaw Meem no longer existent entrance, the addition entrance. Here again, the entryway. The house originally consisted of 2 separate addresses that you can see here. This is the one, and this is the second, and then they were joined together. The southern house facades 1 through 9, that's down here, was 860 Camino Ranchitos, constructed before the 1960s in the Spanish Pueblo revival style. The structure is currently also been now contributing. Then there's this secondary building here to the southwest, originally constructed as a garage. It was converted to a Russian Orthodox chapel in 1968 and enlarged in 1971. That's this building here, which now looks like that. The house on February 10th, 2004, a rehabilitation of the structure was approved by the then Historic Design Review Board. However, this appears not to have been entirely executed. It included removing the non-historic east entrance, which is today still in place. On April 13th, 2021, the HDRB designated facades 26, 27, 28, 29, and 34 as primary. Just to refresh your memory, that's this facade here. And this is the original front of the house, 26 and 27. This is the portal that we'll return to. So the applicant now proposes to make a number of changes. I've outlined them here in this diagram. So we will go through them in detail. One of them is this entryway next to this primary facade, yard walls in the front, connecting a portal and a garage. So item 1 is to construct yard walls and an entry gate to define the guest parking area to a height of 5 feet 2 inches close to the streetscape, where this is the maximum allowable height, and 6 foot 0 inches further back from the streetscape. Item 2 is to construct a coyote fence to a height of 6 feet in this lower area, in the southern portion. Item 3 is to remove the current non-historic entry door at facades 30 and 31 and build a new entryway in the style of John Gawmeen. This insert here shows a John Gawmeen property, and the proposal is to mimic that. I'm just going to see if I can make it a little bit bigger for you. Is that better, Mr. Benvenu? Then, oops. Item 4, excuse me, just to wrap up on item 3, this wall, it will include a solid door painted white and this these glass doors. The wall is not publicly visible, so that the proposed large area of window is permissible according to code. An exception, however, is requested to construct within 10 feet of a primary facade. Again, this is the primary facade here, and this addition would be within 10 feet. Item 4 is a window replacement. Remove existing non-historic window at the front of the guest house and replace with a divided light casement to match the main house. Item 5 is to add buttresses to match the facades on the main house. You can see here is this vertical profile, and they'll be adding buttresses. Item 6 and 7 are actually just one item. I had misinterpreted the application. It's to enclose this here as a portal. Again, this is these were 2 separate houses, and they were joined then using a portal and laundry room and other accessory rooms. And the proposal, this again was done in, I think, post 1972 to enclose this non-historic portal, creating a hallway and mudroom so that it becomes more of an inside space and entryway. An exception is requested to enclose the portal on the contributing structure. Item 8 is to construct a 2-car garage attached to the guest house. Again, it's in this lower portion. This is what the front main doors would look like. And item 9 is to restore the stepped gable of the chapel with bell cut out to replace, to replicate the historic facade that is shown in the historic survey from 1991. That is the report. Staff recommends that the exception criteria for enclosing the portal and constructing an addition have been met. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with sections 14-5.2 D and E. Stand for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. So this house is contributing, but it has a lot of non-historic parts to it, correct?
That's right. In 1972, there was a number of remodels and changes.
And the chapel part of it, that is not historic, what had been there before?
Well, this is a photo from 1991. It's not is it historic when the changes were made in 1968. So presumably 1968 was this incarnation, still existed in 1991. and then was subsequently removed. So it's historic just by a few years, this design.
Okay, and of the changes that are being proposed this evening, which ones are publicly visible?
I can go to this overview here. There is some visibility from Camino Ranchitos. Given the distance in the trees, there's not a lot that you would notice. Possibly this window change in the buttress here. I think that the changes to the entryway are blocked by this house. Maybe we'll check it out on Google Maps.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, Member Katz has a question for you.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that the window in the guest house is on facade 9 and is quite visible from Camino Ranchitos, and the garage door, the whole front of the garage, would be quite visible from Camino Ranchitos.
Thank you.
I believe.
Okay, any other questions?
I don't think that that's a problem, but I think that we need to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it appears there are no other questions for Daniel from board members at this time, so I will take it to the applicant. Who is the applicant? And
Jared Martinez.
Madam
oh,
Chair, we also have Carl Summer. I don't know if he's intending to speak, but we do have Richard Martinez and Carl Summer here.
okay. And does Carl, he is an attorney, does he need to get sworn in?
Not if he is not presenting factual testimony. If he's arguing law, he's good to go.
Okay, would you swear in Mr. Martinez, please?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Richard Martinez, 1524 Paseo de Peralta, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you.
Hello, Richard. How are you this evening?
Hello, good, thank you.
Richard, what do you have to tell us about this project?
I would like to first, if we can go to the proposed site plan, please. Not this plan, but the site plan.
If I have it here.
Okay, there it is. Yes. So in the existing site plan, there is a driveway that goes all the way along that connects El Caminito to a easement road from Ranchitos, and we're proposing to sever that and to gain some of that for a private patio behind a wall. And so we're limiting the area of the guest parking to near the circle of El Caminito, and having a walls and a new entry gate that would lead to a patio that would then lead to the front entryway. As you know, this is a very convoluted plan of a house, and there have been many additions over the years, and so the historic part of the house is sort of H-shaped in the middle, and we're planning to replace the non-historic entryway with the new entryway. And if you could go now to the front facade plan.
Proposal.
The one that you had. This shows the existing entryway right now, which is labeled 32. You can see that there's plate glass and an entryway in the corner that is unresolved, let's say. So what we're planning to do is do something in the style of John Galmim. It's hard to see, but it consists of 3 bays, and it's similar to the enclosed portal that John Galmim had designed that you see in the lower area of the photograph from his books. See how there are columns in between the expanses of glass that's sort of divided into sections. So we have similar columns dividing it into 3 sections. And the 3rd section, the one with the door, is pushed back, not completely symmetric in the same plane as the other glass panels. And I wanted
to the floor plan, perhaps.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Yes. I wanted to make some place which was obviously the entryway to the house, and also provided some sort of shelter as you come in the front door. And so we have that section pushed back, even though the roof goes along the whole facade. And thus, that's why that section of the building is within 10 feet of the front facade. The designation of the primary facades was to make the 2 ends of the H primary. And so by filling in some of the interior, it's very difficult to not be within 10 feet of the front facade of one of those ends. And so that's why we did that. The other thing that we're doing is to, on this facade, is to enclose the connection that was made to the guest house and make that the owner's entrance. So there's a mudroom, a passageway into the house and into the guest house. When you come in through the easement and park either in the garage or in the parking area beyond. And then we are planning to restore the facade of the chapel, so that we replicate what was there before 1991 or in 1991. We don't know when it was chopped off. I stand for any questions.
So Richard, they want to restore the chapel part just because they liked it? I'm just going to guess.
Yes, it's not visible from any public way. It's in the back of the house. But yeah, it's charming.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if any board members have questions for you. I don't see any hands that are up at this time. So no hands are up, so I'm going to take it to public comment. Let me see if anybody from the public. Yes, we have a person there that's Derek Penfield. And would you swear him in, Melissa?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Derek Penfield, 605 Abeta Street, Santa Fe, 87505.
I'm kind of having a little bit hard time hearing you. Can you speak a little louder?
Yes, Derek Penfield, 605 Abeta Street, Santa Fe,
Okay.
87505.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Penfield. What do you have to tell us?
I just wanted to throw some support for this project as a nearby neighbor. I'm very pleased that the owner is taking the time and the added expense of upgrading this home in the style of John Gaw Means vernacular. And I think that it'll be a great addition to the historic architecture found throughout the neighborhood. So I encourage you to pass the project as it is. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you very much for your comments. And it appears Mr. Penfield is the only one that is commenting in reference to this particular project. I'll take it back to the board and let me see. We have Member Katz who has his hand up and also Member Benvenue. Member Katz, you're muted. Unmute, please. Frank, you unmute, please.
I was going to make a motion, and but so John should go first. If he
Yeah,
has
let me see if Member Benvenue has if he has comments or a motion. Yes, Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Both. I was also going to make a motion, but I did have a comment that I completely agree that this is a very sensitive remodel and is really improving the property. So I commend Mr. Martinez and the owners for the work they're putting into this. And I would move to approve, but Frank, you can go ahead and I'll second.
Oh,
No, you go ahead. I'll second.
Okay, then in case number 2021-003720 HDRB 855 El Caminito, move to approve the application as submitted.
And Frank would second.
and Member Benvenue, would you indicate that there were 2 exceptions that were being requested?
Oh, yes, and that, thank you for that. And that and further find that all applicable exceptions have been met.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please. Melissa.
Yes. Member Beachside.
Yes.
Member Bienvenue.
Yes.
Member Guida.
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz.
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I have to tell you, I love this house in the roundness, you know, the fatness of those corners. I like that.
Yes, me too.
Just a little comment.
Thank you
I
very much.
like your house in Pecos too, as shown in
Oh.
Paso Tiempo.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard, good luck.
Thank you.
Next case is also Daniel's case, and it is located at 234.5 Irvine Street or Irving. And that is case 2021-003719. Daniel, may we hear your report, please?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. 234.5 Irvine Street is a 1,198 square foot single family residential structure built in a simplified Spanish Pueblo Revival style. Around 1932, with non-contributing status to the West Side Guadalupe, its contributing status to the West Side Guadalupe Historic District. It is constructed of adobe. The street-facing facade, number 4, that's this facade. This is the primary facade, centered with a portal and non-historic windows. The portal is excluded from the primary designation. West, north, and south elevations are utilitarian with limited public visibility. In case 2020-003376 HDRB, heard on April 13th, 2021, the board designated this as facade number 4 as primary, excluding the portal. Some other pictures. Here's the portal. These are the non-primary facades. The applicant now returns with the following items. Number 1 is roof replacement and parapet alterations. The roof will be raised by 2 feet 10 inches to ensure structural compliance and to achieve a minimum required roof height. The parapet will be rebuilt along the contributing facade, which is number 4. Here you can see the existing and the proposed additional height. It will be rebuilt to preserve the parapet elements, notably corner flares and centered half dome. Wanted to show I neglected to show it, but it's in the packet. I can bring it up. The roof is very, very simply constructed right now. There's no insulation. It's not structurally sufficient. So this height is purely to get the necessary infrastructure to and ensure properly built and insulated roof. The new height of the structure will be 13 feet 7 inches, which is below the maximum allowable height of 14 feet 11 inches. The new height of the structure, a new drainage system, item 3, will be added to the roof, including canales at the rear of the house. Item 4, all roof appurtenances will be hidden behind the parapets. So these items 1 through 4 are included in this because there's really nothing to see through for those additional items. Item 5 is to add a ground-mounted condenser unit for a new mini split HVAC system in the side yard behind the fence. This will also not be visible from the public street. Item 6 is to increase the north elevation window frame height from 22 to 36 inches and move it approximately 5 inches east. It will be a metal clad window with simulated divided lights and replace an existing vinyl window. Further non-historic window on this elevation to the west. This one will be removed. Item 7, there has been a little bit of back and forth with the applicant, but the stuccoing will be limited to repair stucco. This is a paint color that they identified, but essentially the stucco repairs will match the existing stucco. And item 8, where the window trim will be painted in a bare rain master, which is a kind of a gray color. The packet did include a lot of colors. I request that you ignore those. We have reduced basically the application to this color, this one color. That is the application. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with sections 14-5.2 D and I for Westside Guadalupe Historic District. I stand for questions.
Thank you for your report. So they are wanting to raise the roof by 2 feet 10 inches, correct?
Right, and I can show you if you like the plan here that shows the necessity for that. Sorry for the scrolling. Here, you see this is the flat roof as it exists today. It's really just 2x4s and a minimal roof construction. And the proposal is to put in vigas to raise the height to really, I believe it's below the acceptable, permissible height now. So to raise it up to a minimum height, install vigas, insulation, and a reasonably solidly structured roof.
Thank you, Daniel. Let me see if other members have any other questions. Not at this time, so let's swear in the applicant.
Okay. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Gayla Bechtel, 1813 Hano Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you.
Hi, Gayla.
Hi.
Hope you're doing well.
Yes, and you too.
What do you have to tell us about this project?
I think Daniel's described it quite well, and I like that he showed you the section that really makes the case for why we're raising the roof. We don't want to impact the small scale nature of the house itself, except my clients are wishing to be able to have some architectural detail, meaning the vigas inside, and then having a generous, a more generous ceiling height. And so I felt like it's sort of a minimal ask, my clients are going to be renovating this house over time. It may take them 10 years or more. So that's why we're not asking for more, even though I know eventually they'll probably want to replace the windows and eventually they might do more work on the front, different portal, but it's way out in the future. So there was no reason to ask for those things now.
Thank you. And they are asking for skylights or a skylight?
Yes, there are some skylights. I'd have to go back and look at the plans. There are some skylights that'll be hidden behind the parapets, and then the HVAC system.
There are skylights.
Yeah, thank you. None of that will be publicly visible, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Gayla, I do want to compliment you on your on the elevation drawings where you show what is existing right on the, if you can move it to that, Daniel, right here where you show the existing roof line and then the proposed roof line. That makes a lot of sense to me. Let me see if board members have any questions for you. Any questions, board members? Yes, Member Beachside.
Thank you. Just one question about the stucco color. Is that color selected to match existing as close as possible?
I don't remember what's existing. I'd have to look at the photographs, but no, it was meant to be a new color, and they've decided, although it does look pretty similar, they've decided to just patch for now and just use the existing color and not change the color. So I don't believe it's the same color.
Oh, so there's not a color change to the stucco, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and the window trim color is not proposed?
It's not changing either.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry for confusion there. We had some changes in the application.
No, that's okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else, board members? I think not, and I'll open it for public comment, and Stephanie Beninato wants to comment, and she's already sworn in. Stephanie.
Stephanie Beninato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I think, that, 3 feet, almost 3 feet seems like a lot, but, there's supposedly a justification and a drawing that shows you what's being added in that space. I do appreciate also that the architect and owners are clear that there probably will be other changes and that they will be back to the board, and it's not like going to be a surprise when it happens later on, and it won't be 2 weeks from now either. So I do appreciate that kind of information. Thanks.
Thank you. So they're replacing the joists and they're also adding insulation, so that is something that is needed, I guess, to increase that height. Anything else, board members? If not, I will entertain a motion. Member Benvenu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In case number 2021-003719, HDRB 234.5 Irvine Street, I would move that a finding be entered that the exception criteria have been met and that the proposal be approved as submitted.
Beachside seconds.
Thank you very much. Roll call vote.
Member Beachside?
Yes.
Member Bienvenue?
Yes.
Member Guida?
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz?
Yes.
Member Larson?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Gayla. And to the applicant, to the owners, good luck to you. And I think you're doing this in the way that many people had done in the past. Poco a poco, little by little. When you don't have, seriously, when people didn't have tons of money, that's the way they did it. And some people still do it that way. So good luck to you.
Thanks very much.
Next case is located at 377 Garcia Street. And this is Daniel's case. It's case 2021-003726. Daniel. What do you have to tell us about this case?
Madam Chair, I apologize for interrupting. I just want to make sure that our applicants here, I see a name that matches up with the owner, but I want to make sure that the agents here, it might be ETR, but if you're
Yes,
in
that would be ETR. Yeah.
okay, thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 377 Garcia Street is a single-family residence constructed in a territorial style before 1912. It has a historic designation of contributing to the downtown East Side Historic District with the west facade and the central facade courtyards, facades 1 through 4, designated as primary. That's these facades. Just to go back to that picture. So that's this front, and then the courtyard goes into this little space there. So these facades are all primary. The historic rectangular shaped building has thick adobe walls, double or triple 6-light windows, and a brick cornice. The street facing facade is symmetrical and includes a centered wooden door and an arched opening into a small courtyard, 2 wooden canales with flashing and 2 historic 6-light windows. I think you're probably familiar with the building. It's across from the cafe over here. Here are a couple of views of it. This is the interior, very narrow courtyard. That's the gate that faces out onto the street. So this is facing out onto Garcia Street, and this is with the back to Garcia Street facing onto that little courtyard. So on February 11th, 2014, in case H1409, the board heard an application for constructing additions in the courtyard and on the south facade, constructing a pergola and making repairs. The courtyard addition was denied, and the remaining items I wrote here were never carried out. That's not quite correct. There were some changes made. The permit is expired. Some of it was carried through, and parts were not. This plan gives an overview of elements that were carried out or started. That includes this portal, or something like a portal or pergola here at the back, coyote fencing. Just a moment. I'm in a meeting. This mud room and walls, oak cuts were made for doors where there were originally windows, and a new gate. You can see that here. This is the new addition that was made on the side, a wall. The work was half completed. Here are the coyote fences at the back that were constructed. And not so visible here are cuts where windows were to be transformed into doors. Other work is now proposed. The dog has gone out. You need to be quiet. Go. So there's now new work to be proposed, which includes doing some finishing work on this pergola, changing a window. I'm going to go through all of these, making changes in the courtyard, changing the windows, and so on. So because the permit is expired, I will attempt to show you the existing situation and the work that still needs to be done, which is now being applied for. Here again is the existing floor plan. And now we're at item 1. As you know, the house is right on the street on Garcia Street, next to Acequia Madre, which is a pretty busy intersection with traffic and social life. And so the applicant is making also the application is with this background. Replace item 1, to replace the rotted windows on the street facades, facades 1 and 4. That's these 2 windows that face the street, with new clad windows in dove white with soundproof glass. An exception is to section 14-5.2 D5A1 is requested to replace historic windows on a primary facade. Here are the windows and the close-up of some of the condition that they're in. Item 2, in the central courtyard, that's that little tiny courtyard we saw here. Install French doors in the same location and style as the bedroom windows. For facade, for bedroom 2, I would have to go back to the plan, but it's the one on the south side. I can go just back to here for a moment. So there's 2 bedrooms here. This one has a door. This one does not have an egress. So egress is being requested for this door. For this door, it's not so critical, but they are requesting doors for both of those elevations. Those 2 elevations that are changing doors to windows. For bedroom 1, it will allow more air and egress and improve the quality of life, but for bedroom 2 is really critical for egress. An exception to 14-5.2 is requested to replace historic windows on a primary facade. Item 3 is to replace, hold on a second, I can't, no. My daughter is at the door. Item 3 is to replace a window on the non-primary facade in the kitchen in the east elevation. This is a rotted historic window, so that repair is not possible. It will be a wood clad with the same divided lights and profile as the existing. Item 4 is to restucco the structure to match the existing and using a special El-Ray color. I'm not showing a photo of that here. Item 5 is to replace the existing Latia fence running from north to south of the yard wall to a height of 6 feet. That's here, set back here. You can see this wall. Excuse me. It's actually referring to this wall. If you this fence, you can see here's a fence, and that would be changed to a wall. Again, the wall, and again. And then this is another view as it extends to the back of the house. Item 6, add a stone planter to the property line to act as a spatial barrier between the gate and the street. That's these little planters here. Item 7 is to install horizontal wood slats over the beams to complete the trellis in the rear that was begun. And it will match the existing in a dove white. Here again, you can see it. The posts, there are posts, they're not visible in this picture because this is a cutaway. There's a fence behind it, but there are vertical posts. Anyway, you can see that here there are not. There's a the posts or the beams would run this way parallel to the building have been added here. And finally, item 8 is to install lighting that was proposed and approved in the last application. The application is being renewed. It's an oil rubbed bronze, and they would be put on the sides of the door as well as in the inner courtyard. That is the application. Staff recommends that the exception have been met with respect to windows 1, 2, and 4. Staff recommends that an exception have been met to replace the window 3, but not to change its size. That's the window that has where the room already has egress. this one. For items 1 and 2, the exception criteria have been met. For items 3 through 8, staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with sections 14-5.2 D and E. So in other words, if the exception criteria have been met, then all items should be approved. I stand for questions.
Thank you for your report, Daniel. So there is no Latia fence being proposed, correct?
There's no fence being proposed. There's a wall that is to replace a fence.
Okay, thank you. And also some of the windows that were shown, they look like they're in very poor condition. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
They look
There's
like
quite
they
a
were
lot of problem.
not repairable, but the ones that are being replaced, they're going to be replaced with wood frames. They are going to be wood clad.
They'll be clad with metal. There'll be wood clad with metal and with some glazes.
So some of them are going to be metal and some of them are going to be wood. Is that correct? I think that's what I read.
I think that they're going to be metal, but now I'm questioning.
I can ask the applicant.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Any other questions for Daniel at this time? It appears not. Yes, Member Beachside.
Thank you. Just one question about replacement in kind. Is a wood-clad window considered to be replacement in kind for the primary street-facing facade?
I would look at the exact wording of the code. I believe that it says that materials, that would have to be replaced with the same materials. So this is not exactly the same materials because this is a wood window with a metal clad.
Mm-hmm.
It is changing the materials.
Right. So
true placement in kind would be a wood window.
And the code requires replacement in kind on a primary facade for windows. Is that right?
Yes, of course. That's why there's an exception required.
Okay. And the sizes of those window openings are not changing?
Not numbers 1 and 4.
And is that 1 and 2 on the front or 1 and 4 on the front?
4 is this window to the right. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I believe they have some sort of trim around them. Is that being changed at all?
Let's have a look at the photo. Oh, that's not such a good photo. Hold on a second. I have.
Yeah, I saw it in a photo, I think.
Look at the street view.
Okay.
I think that the trim is being renewed with wood.
Okay. Right. And then just to confirm, is the east facade primary or not?
No, just this and then this inner courtyard.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me see, no other questions for now. Yes, Member Katz.
Yeah, well, never mind. I will ask the applicant.
You're going to ask the applicant, whatever you have?
Yes.
Okay, let's swear in the applicant or applicants. Who are they?
ETR.
Yeah, I believe it's Esteban Trujillo.
Yes.
Okay. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Oh. Mr. Trujillo, are you there?
I'm muted by you guys here.
We can hear you.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, would you please swear him in, Melissa?
Yes, yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Esteban Trujillo, 133 West Houghton Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Trujillo. What do you have to tell us about this project?
Well, I'm taking the project started as a an addition to what was already approved. And what we, while analyzing the situation with the busy street and those windows that are historic, the owner wanted to keep the historic look. And there is a problem with the windows in the front, in the west elevation, because the canales are right over those windows and they just dump the water and they ruin them. That's why we want to do a wood clad finish on that on those windows. And you know, to be more historic, we could paint the clad so it does have a painted feel and look to it, which would be resemble the exact same window, except it'll be more protected from the elements.
Okay, and did you have anything further to tell us?
Yeah, the question of egress for, you know, the first bedroom on the northeast right here is a big problem because none of the windows right now meet that requirement. And we would like to be symmetrical with the interior courtyard with replacing both of those windows that are symmetrical. The windows to the courtyard.
Okay, this is not, Daniel, is he referring to window 3?
Let me just get the diagram here. Where's my
window 3?
So for this room, I understood it was for this room, the egress was the.
No, the egress is definitely an issue on bedroom 2, which is that one there. We're replacing the window 5 is an egress window, but it barely meets that requirement the way it was designed. If we're not allowed to do number 3, replace that with the door, then that window would have to be a little bit larger than what's shown.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. Board members, do you have questions for Mr. Trujillo? I don't see any hands raised at this time. So I will take it to public comment in the meantime. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Stephanie Beninato.
Yes, Stephanie Beninato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe. Yes, this is one of my favorite houses in that area. And I can see where the windows on the, I guess, west side, I hope that's the right side, west side need to be replaced. And, you know, the board, I guess, could allow soundproofing glass in there, would probably be helpful. I know that it's not really visible in the interior courtyard there, but I mean, if a window, what does it mean to be barely need egress? Because if it needs egress, then it needs egress, and you don't need another window or door to need egress. And if it barely meets egress, why not make that window a slightly bigger so that it would need egress more easily? And I think that the asymmetry actually adds to it tells us something about the history of the house, and adds to the character or maintains really the character of the house. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's no one else from the public wanting to comment, so I will take it back to the board. And we have Jason Cluck that wishes to say something. Has his hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Cluck. So just a point of information in the IRC, there's an Appendix J that has an exception for a window retrofit that does allow it to does allow a new window to be put into the existing frame that doesn't meet strict egress requirements. as a replacement window. I don't have the detail on that, but it does exist, just point of information.
Okay, thank you for that. Board members, any other questions or comments? It appears not, then I will entertain a motion. This is the last case this evening, so let's not be shy. Maybe you're debating on asking a question or two. Okay, Member Benvenu.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I will make a motion. In case 2021-003726, HDRB 377 Garcia Street. Move that findings be entered, that the exception criteria have been met for the reasons set forth in the staff report, and that the application be approved.
And is there a second to this motion?
Guida seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Beachai?
Sorry, Madam Chair, may I make a comment before we vote?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I believe the motion was to approve per staff's recommendation, but I believe that staff's recommendation excludes window number 3, indicating that the exception criteria have not been met.
Oh, actually, well,
good
let's
catch.
let Daniel address that, but that's true. I noticed that in the staff
He
report
said-
as well, but I
oh.
think he rescinded that.
I think
So-
Daniel, for window 3, he said it's okay to replace, but not the size. Is that correct, Daniel?
That's correct. I recommended that the dimensions of the original be maintained because egress is possible through the other window. But that replacing the window due to its bad condition would be, should be approved.
But did I hear the applicant, did I hear Mr. Trujillo say that it was not meeting egress? Daniel?
Hello?
Or Mr. Trujillo? Yes. Is
Um,
that meeting egress if the size isn't changed?
If the size is changed, it will meet egress, but we do have an egress, which was window number 3. Number 5, excuse me, and on that, in that bedroom. That will meet egress. But what I was saying is that it's barely meets egress the way it was designed. So I would like to propose that it would be a few inches taller than what was originally in the design.
So you're saying 2 inches taller?
I would say like 2 to 4 inches taller.
Okay, maker of the motion, you heard Mr. Trujillo.
My intention was to follow staff's recommendation in my motion.
Okay, now we have different people wanting to comment. Okay, so we have Member Beachside.
Sorry, I'm just a little confused on the motion. I thought staff's recommendation was to retain window 3 as is in size, but replace the materials.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
And then I believe the applicant is now indicating that he would change window number 5 to be larger to better meet the egress. Is that correct?
No, I think he was talking about window 3 as well.
No, I believe it was
5.
It was 5?
Yes.
So on number 5, he wants to increase it by 2 to 4 inches.
That's this window.
And Daniel, what was your position on that?
Oh, we hadn't discussed that possibility, but it's not a primary facade. That would be permissible if maybe if he submitted an updated plan.
Okay, Member Benvenu, you just heard staff indicate that that would be for window 5, increasing it by 2 to 4 inches, that would be okay. And let me see, I think I saw Member Katz's hand up. Member Katz, did you have something?
Um, I guess the enlargement of window 5 was not part of the application. It isn't necessary for egress. And as the director pointed out, it doesn't need to be done by code. And so I think that window 5 should be replaced in kind.
Okay.
Unless
Member
you want to come back
Benvenue, would you
and
repeat your motion?
Well, again, my motion is, so I think we are back to staff's recommendation, if I understand that discussion that just took place. Is that correct, Daniel?
With the question about window 5. But otherwise, yes.
So that doesn't change. So, and who seconded the motion?
I did.
Oh, Member Guida?
Yes.
Okay. So let's have the roll call vote, please.
So, sorry, Madam Chair, could we restate the motion?
Let me find staff's recommendation here. Page, Daniel.
228, John.
Okay. Oh, it's not my 228, unfortunately.
Shall I read the motion?
Yeah, sure.
Staff recommends that the exception criteria have been met with respect to windows 1, 2, and 4. Staff recommends that an exception criteria have been met to replace window 3, but not to change its size. Staff recommends approval with the exception of, well, I would, if I read it, so for items 1 and 2, that's the windows 1, 2, and 4. The exception have been met. And for items 3 through 8, staff recommends approval. So I'm not sure if that helps.
Well, it does. So you just stated staff's recommendation. So the motion is to adopt staff's recommendation as the findings and approve the recommendations of staff as submitted by staff.
And Member Guida seconded?
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside?
Yes.
Member, okay, thank you. Member Bienvenue?
Yes.
Member Guida?
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz?
Yes.
Member Larson?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Trujillo.
Thank you.
And next we have discussion items. Anything under discussion items? Member Beachside, you have your hand up. Was that accidental?
Not a discussion item, but I believe that the last applicant needs to resubmit the plans prior to seeking a permit that shows window 3 not being replaced with a door.
Right.
Correct. You should submit the plans for administrative approval with so that we have updated plans.
Yes, thank you.
Showing the change or the maintaining the window size of number 3.
Okay. So anything else under discussion items? Any matters from the board?
Madam Chair, I had a couple things I should have brought up under staff communications are very short. I just want to note that there is an appeal next week on Wednesday, a governing body for 1299 Upper Canyon. That's a couple of solid oxidized steel gate replacements that were conditioned to have wood elements, to be brief and summarized. Also, with regard to our meeting format, as I mentioned before, our current ability for the board members to meet remotely is based on an ongoing emergency declared by the city. And our current emergency proclamation expires on July 12th, the day before our next meeting. I have mentioned this to the city attorney with a suggestion that perhaps we can extend the emergency proclamation long enough to figure out how to implement the necessary technology and move to a hybrid format, maybe for the second meeting in July or the first meeting in August. So we'll keep you posted. I'm not sure we're quite ready with our technology and our resources and our staff to have you all in City Hall on July 13th, but we will need an order by the governing body and the mayor to kind of keep that going. So we'll certainly let you know as soon as we know more.
Okay, thank you, Sally. And Sally, what about the field trips? I think we should be able to do field trips. I think everyone's been vaccinated.
The field trips, I think, could be done like legally. The question, I think, becomes staff's ability to organize them. So I think it's more of an implementation and, again, a staff resources issue. So I would have to defer to Nicole and Jason on whether and how we're ready to go forward with that. Even the question of like, are our vehicles maintained? Do we still have a van that works? Is everything up to date with the vehicles? I mean, there's a lot of little pieces like that. Is staff able to do it? Nicole obviously can't lead a field trip from South Lake Tahoe. I mean, there's a lot of kind of just implementation issues.
Oh, okay. I thought that it was going to be simple and they were going to say, yeah, we can do it. You know, for a lot of some of these cases, it is so beneficial if we're on a field trip. So, and by the way, I did not meet Jason. Jason, hi, what is your title?
Hi, I'm the interim land use director as of the 28th.
Oh, okay. Well, hello and congratulations. And
if I may, I sorry, I just, if I could chime in, I agree with Sally. We definitely need to check on the status of the maintenance of the van. At least I'm guessing it needs a new battery. So I've got that on my list.
Okay, a battery, that's it. That should not be a problem.
Registration.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, maybe registration.
Okay, they're adding up.
Maybe a new tire.
There's a couple of things that I want to say, and that is, Nicole, I had made a suggestion sometime back to have cases that are involved or complicated first on the agenda so that our minds are fresh when we take those cases in. And you did that, and I think that worked very well, and I think that that practice should continue. Okay?
Okay.
I really did like that. And another thing that I have been promoting for years and years, and tonight's cases were all on point, and that is to have the existing and the proposed on the same page. I think that that's important. Sometimes if you have the existing on one page and then you're leafing through for the proposed, just have your applicants do the existing and the proposed on the same page. Anything that makes your job and our job easier, I think that's good. And anything else, board members? Nada, they all just want to go home and have dinner or have a little glass of vinito.
I always have one last thing. I need to be excused for the next meeting, July 13th, please.
Oh, okay. And anything else? Jason, did you have something? You have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just on your last point, I think it would have been very helpful to have a structural section of the first case, the Portal. So I would personally like to see that kind of information included. I think you could have shortened debate on that and made things a lot more clear. Maybe staff could start including those there when they're deemed appropriate.
Yeah, anything that makes things clearer, it really does make things go a lot smoother, correct? Okay, so our next meeting is on July 13th, as stated. So ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned, and I want to thank everybody for your usual good job done this evening. And we shall see you on July 13th. Have a nice 2 weeks in the meantime.
I think it's 3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks. Ooh,
we're getting a little excited for the extra week.
Oh, that's even better. Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and spot you.